Here is the answer key for the quarterly review. So number 1, given the sequence 1, 3, 9, 27, it should say state the common ratio. Remember, the common ratio is what you are multiplying by to get from one number to the next. So to get from 1 to 3 to 9 to 27, we are multiplying by 3. So common ratio, remember we use the letter R to represent it, so R equals 3. Part B, algebraically find the 10th term in the sequence. So we're going to use the formula for this, and if you go to the last page, I gave you the formulas. So we should be using the first one, so this is for question 1B. The formula is AN equals A1 times R to the N minus 1 power. So A1, remember, is the first term, so that would be 1. R, we said, was 3 in part A. And because we are finding the 10th term, N would be 10. So I would plug it in, put the R in parentheses, and then type this straight into your calculator. So we have 1 times 3 to the 10 minus 1 power, and you should get 19,683. Part C, algebraically find the sum of the first 10 terms. So now we're going to add up all 10 terms. So that also has its own formula. That is what we call a geometric series. It means a sum. So here is your formula we are going to use. So Sn equals A1 minus A1 times R to the N power over 1 minus R. So again, same letters that were in the last formula. N is going to be 10. A1 is the first term, that is 1. R is 3. Again, we're going to type this into our calculator. I suggest when we do this that we use the fraction button. So alpha, y equals, alpha is the green button, y equals is the top left. Choice 1 gets you a fraction. And then type it in this way. I think you are less likely to make a mistake. Oops. Unless you type it in wrong like me. Hit enter, and there is your answer, 29,524. Question 2. In the year 2000, a small town had a population of 100 people. The population has been increasing annually by 30%. Part A, find a formula to determine the population in any given year. So if we go to our formulas, this is a word problem. We're dealing with growth. The word compound and continuously do not show up. Remember, those two are keywords that you would look for in the problem. So because neither one is mentioned, we're going with the regular growth formula. So A equals P times 1 plus R to the T. So plugging in, P, remember, is your initial amount, so that would be the 100. R is going to be 0.3. Remember, we take the percent and divide by 100 to get our R. And we are using a formula that could be for any given year. So T is going to be just T. Make sure you do have A equals in front, otherwise it is incorrect. Part B, what will the population of the town be in the year 2020? So if we take a look, this was starting in the year 2000. So we are going to subtract the 2. That is your T, so T is 20. And then we're going to take that and plug it straight into our calculator. So we have 100 times 1 plus 0.3 to the 20th power. Now if we look at the question, it does not tell us where to round. So we're going to go with, because it's people, we round down. If it told you where to round, you would follow your regular rounding rules. Oops. So rounding down, we would have 19,004. Again, this is because it did not tell us to round. If they said round to the nearest whole number, we would have rounded up. But because they did not tell us where to round people, we always round down in those cases. Question 3. Jack invests $5,000 at an annual interest rate of 4%, compounded continuously. It's according to this formula, A equals P times E to the RT power, where A is the amount, P is the principal, R is the rate of interest, and T is the time in years. Determine to the nearest dollar the amount of money he will have after 8 years. If that formula was not given, remember the word continuously is your key word here. So looking at my formulas, that is this formula down here. Same formula, and again, that's because of this word continuously. So P is how much we are investing, the principal, so that is the 5,000. E is just E, it's just a number on the calculator. Remember, it's a button we're going to push. R, we're going to take that 4%, divide by 100 to move over the decimal. So we get 0.04. And T is 8. So again, we are going to take this and just plug it straight into our calculator. So 5,000. E is second, the blue button. LN, third button up on the left. It's right next to the number 4. There's your E to the 0.04 times 8 power. And it said to round to the nearest dollar, so the nearest whole number. So that 0.6 tells the 5 to round up. So 6886. Because it's the nearest dollar, do not show me any decimal places. Question 4. You decided to purchase a car for $28,500. According to a consumer magazine, this particular car loses 12% of its value every year. What will the car be worth in 10 years? So looking at my formulas, the word continuously is not there. The word compounded is not there. And this said it was losing value. So we are using decay. So that's that formula right there. So we have A equals P times 1 minus R to the T. So the initial amount is the $28,500. R, remember we are going to take the percent and divide by 100, and we get 0.12. And the time is 10 years. Again, we're just taking this and plugging it straight into our calculator. I believe those were the numbers. It does not tell us where to round, so because this is dealing with money, 2 decimal places. So 7937.28. There is your answer. Number 5, Lily invests $2,700 at an annual interest rate of 3.5% compounded monthly. Determine the amount of money she will have after 5 years to the nearest dollar. So looking at our formulas, it mentions the word compound by itself. So that is the formula we are going with. If you remember when I taught you this lesson, you can go back to that unit in Google Classroom. I went over what all the different words mean for N. We are investing $2,700, so that is our P. R, divide by 100. So you should get 0.035. Because this is monthly, there are 12 months in a year, so N would be 12. T is 5. And then we are going to type that into our calculator again. So 2,700 double check some numbers. 2,700.03512, and that was 5 years. And this one says the nearest dollar, so that 0.5 tells us to round up, so 3216. Question 6. Simplify the exponential expression with only positive exponents in your final answer. So when you simplify, you are trying to consolidate this so you only have a single number, a single x, and a single y. Order of operations, parentheses come first. That 2 on the outside gets distributed inside. So that becomes 3 squared times x to the 4th. Remember, power to a power, you multiply. Now you're multiplying the exponents. That 3, however, is not an exponent, so you are not doing 3 times 2. You are doing 3 to the 2nd power, which is 9. The front part we're not doing anything with right now. They did not have parentheses, so it just comes down. And now we are multiplying. 4 times 9 is 36. For the x's, we are going to add the exponents. So -7 plus 4 is -3. And then the y doesn't have anyone to multiply with, so it just comes over as y to the 8th. This whole thing is technically over 1. It said positive exponents. So the x has a negative exponent, so the x is going to the bottom. The 36y to the 8th stays on top. And when the x goes to the bottom, its exponent turns positive. Question 7, rewrite as a radical expression with positive exponents. So again, this x is by itself with the negative exponent. The 7 is not part of it. The whole thing is technically over 1. So the x is going to the bottom. The 7 stays on top. And now we want a radical expression. So if you remember, this was power over root. So when you write your radical, the root is 3 and the power is 2. And that is your final answer. Question 8, given a right triangle ABC, where C is the right angle, AB is equal to 10 and BC is equal to 6, determine the exact value of cosine of B. So we're going to start by drawing a right triangle. C is the right angle. A and B don't matter after that. From A to B, it is equal to 10. From B to C, it is equal to 6. To find the missing side, we can do Pythagorean theorem. Remember, your C has to be your hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle, so that would be the 10. The 6 can become either the A or the B. It does not matter. 6 squared is 36. 10 squared is 100. Subtract the 36. Take the square root of both sides. So we get the missing side is 8. We want to find cosine of B. So we are going to use SOHCAHTOA. Cosine of angle B. Opposite angle B is the 8, which means adjacent is the 6. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so 6 over 10. If you wanted to simplify, you could. You don't have to. This is a nice decimal, so if you give me the decimal, that's okay too. If it's a decimal that goes across your screen though, math enter, enter, you have to make it a fraction. Number 9, find the exact value of this. Exact value means we are going to be using the chart. However, remember the chart is in degrees. And right now, these pi's mean that we are in radians. So the first thing we are going to do is take both of them and convert. So pi over 6, we're going to multiply by 180 over 1 pi. Technically, there is a 1 in front of that first pi, and the 2 pi's are going to cancel because you have 1 on top, 1 on the bottom. So on your calculator, you are going to type in 1/6 times 180 over 1, and you should get 30. So that first one is cotangent of 30 times We're going to do the same thing for pi over 3. Multiply by 180 over 1 pi. First pi has a 1 in front of it, and again the pi's cancel. So on the calculator, 1/3 times 180, you should get 60. So that second one becomes sine of 60. Cotangent, remember this is the reciprocal of tangent. So going to the chart, tangent of 30 is radical 3 over 3. So cotangent, we are going to flip it and make it 3 over radical 3. Next, we have sine of 60. So sine of 60, we have a radical 3 over 2. No need to flip that one, so we just leave it. We multiply fractions straight across, so 3 times radical 3 on top is 3 radical 3. Radical 3 times 2 on the bottom is 2 radical 3. And then those radical 3's cancel out. You have 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, and you are left with 3 over 2. Last question, number 10. Convert 310 degrees to radians. So to do that, you are going to multiply by 1 pi over 180 degrees. Remember, we leave the pi out. So on the calculator, you're not going to type the pi in. It's just going to be 310 times 1 divided by 180. Math, enter, enter. And you get 31 over 18. We're going to remember, though, to bring the pi over into our answer. You can put it on top or next to the entire thing. Let me know if you have any questions. Your quarterly will be posted on Wednesday, and it is due Friday. So let me know if there's any questions, and I can help you.